Bush administration constantly talks about how it supports the troops and we need people to support the troops and support the war, but yet scandal after scandal continues to show lack of treatment, subpar barracks, the Walter Reed scandal, etc. Tell us about your experience with the mental health system, with the VA, and with how the military has treated people in need.
Right now, I really don't know much about the VA because I haven't entered the VA system yet. The one thing that you mentioned about the bad barracks, we actually have the bad barracks here at Fort Drum too, just like in Fort Bragg, the old World War II barracks. I actually admit I lived in them for about 1.5 to 2 years because my unit was a brand new unit when I first got to that unit, and there was no room for us on post at the time, so they moved us to the old World War II barracks. No air conditioning, pretty much group showers, just really bad living. Horrible furniture, even though the furniture was brand new, the beds were rocking, and you had to set up your room in a way where it was very dangerous. You can easily fall out of bed and easily break a leg or anything like that. It's just overall pretty bad, but the new barracks, well, the newer barracks are still a little bit better, where it's to the point where you have your own shower where you share with the room next to you. But now it's getting to the point where the brand new barracks they're building on Fort Drum, most are completed, but a lot more are still being constructed, which are being constructed now for 1st Brigade when they come back at the end of the year. You pretty much have your own bedroom with brand new furniture just for you, TV in your room that the Army supplies you, cable they supply you for your room. You have pretty much your own bathroom, your own kitchen, literally a kitchen with a stove, etc., and things like that. As I said, for the VA, I don't know much about the VA yet because I haven't gone through the VA system yet. I'm beginning to start it, but I haven't gotten to the point where I know whether it's like all messed up or very not organized or anything like that. But with the Army healthcare system, is very poor, especially up here at Fort Drum. It takes weeks upon months to get an appointment. For example, about 3 weeks ago, I made an appointment with mental health to go see my military psychiatrist. It was about 3 weeks ago. My appointment to go see him is 2 weeks from now, which is roughly 6 to 7 weeks between the time I made the appointment and the time I go see him, which I think is very bad because even though my medication is fine-tuned, I'm still getting worse. I'm still getting my flashbacks. I'm still getting my distance from people, which you could probably see a few minutes ago. I was pretty much walking aimlessly by myself. My memory's getting worse. I'm having migraines like 4 or 5 times a week, if not more. I'm constantly on medication. Every time I say, hey, for example, hey, I think I got an STD, for example, they'll just toss me meds, here, you know? They never actually sit and look at the problem. They're just more prone to toss you medication than they are to actually sit and look at the problem. And another thing about the Army healthcare system is they love to refer you off post. For example, with my migraine problem, I'm with the Med Hold unit on Fort Drum, the 385th Warrior Transition Unit, or what is it called? It's essentially a Med Hold unit. That's what it was called back then, but now they call it something different. And pretty much what they did was you have your own separate doctor that you go see, like a regular doctor, you know, like you would go see. And he would tell you, you know, what's wrong with you, etc. And I told him all about my migraines and everything. So he referred me to get an MRI done. And I have lower back problems too. I really don't complain about them at all, but my back goes out every now and then. So he ordered x-rays for that. And when he looked at the x-rays, a little piece of my vertebrae is missing out of my lower back from almost my 4 years of being in the Army. And he ordered an MRI done on that too. So I did both of them the same day. And when the MRI was done, I was given a disc of the still photos of the MRI along with video that my doctor can tap into and scroll with the mouse, and it does its thing. And I got referred off post to see a neurologist, and I went to go see him last week, and I tried to give him the disc of my still photos. He's a civilian, and he said, "Oh, don't worry about it. I could just tap right into the network." And the video of it didn't show what I saw was in my brain or was in my back. He's like, "Oh, you're perfectly okay. Here's some meds. I want to see you in 4 weeks." But the still photographs actually shows 3 very white, venous, I would say, lesions in my brain. And with the MRI in my lower back, with the still photos, you can obviously tell a piece of my vertebrae is missing. But it didn't show up on the video portion of it. Pretty much what's going on is that the buck is being passed, along with a lot of other soldiers. And that should stop now.
And despite all these problems, they tried to send you back. Can you explain that?
What essentially happened was I got diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder roughly about a year and a half after I came back from Iraq in 2006. And pretty much I started seeing mental health because I figured out there was something wrong with me after I pretty much had a psychotic break with flashbacks, everything, even a suicide attempt. And I went and saw mental health, got a diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder, and I had to have an intake appointment like they do with everybody. But my intake appointment was scheduled the day after I was scheduled to deploy back to Iraq. I told my chain of command about it. I'm like, "Look, I feel I should stay back, go through my intake, find out what's wrong with me, then later deploy." And they said no. So I called up another person in my chapter, told him what was going on. He said, "Go to a hospital right now." And he came, picked me up, went right down to Syracuse, away from Fort Drum, and checked right into a hospital. And about 2 days after I was there, my platoon sergeant calls me on my cell phone, because I called him to check in, tell him I was okay. And he tried to cover his own butt by saying, "Hey, look, I placed you on rear D." He tried to cover his own self, tried to cover his bases by pretty much saying, "No, I didn't tell you no," but he actually did tell me no. And then that's pretty much where I've been ever since.
I understand you've gotten some help and support from veterans and active duty soldiers here in Watertown. Can you talk about that a little bit?
IVAW definitely has helped me a lot. I actually joined IVAW through a friend of mine in my company, my old unit, who was part of IVAW. When I came back from Iraq, I actually had a lot of feelings of, like, the war's wrong, there's something wrong with this war, and I didn't know how I could be able to voice that, because pretty much everybody in my unit had me scared. I mean, they would intimidate me, pretty much don't talk to civilians, things like that. I was afraid, hey, if I go talk to a civilian, hey, I don't like this war, I think there's something wrong. They pretty much put it in my head, oh, he might be CID or something like that. I could get a big investigation on me for, thinking, oh, this war's wrong. Then I was just sitting on charger quarters one day, just sitting at the desk, and my friend comes up and leaving, and he's like, "Well, I'm going to this cafe to go to this meeting." I'm like, "What meeting is this?" He said, "IVAW," and he explained it to me. I'm just like, I need to make it down there sometime. And I made it down there, talked with a couple of our chapter members, pretty much joined right there on the spot. And then I told one of our chapter members about my flashbacks and things like that, and he told me, "Go get help," right then and there. And that they've definitely been a lot of help, especially with civilians. For example, when I got out of the hospital, I was put on a 3-month profile for post-traumatic stress disorder. Cannot deploy, cannot handle weapons or ammo, etc., etc. That profile ran out around Christmas time of last year, of 2007. And what happened was my military psychologist wouldn't renew my profile. He wanted me to go back, even though I was getting worse instead of better. So I talked to one of my chapter members of IVAW, and he hooked me up with a civilian psychologist in Syracuse. I went down to go see him, and he had me take more tests than the military put me through for PTSD. And he wrote his report, sent it up to Fort Drum, I took the report. I turned it into mental health. I specifically gave it to my military psychologist, the one who writes the profiles. He pretty much told me to go F off, go screw yourself. I'm not writing you another profile. But I don't know what the heck happened, but the ball got rolling. Somehow the report got to my military psychiatrist, and he pretty much just sat down and wrote me a new profile right then and there and gave it to me. And then I got transferred to MedHold because my treatment is now 6 months or longer, pending med board discharge.
That's where you stand currently?
Yes. I've been at MedHold since March 16th of 2008.
Thank you.